Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Friday edition of Vuka Nazo. It is a beautiful Friday, that's right. Which means, of course, it's the final episode of the week of Vuka Nazo. Remember, we come to you every weekday from 7 a.m. And if you want to get in touch with us here on the show, all you need to do, of course, is find us on our website at www.bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can catch all the latest episodes, including our other features or other titles on the show, the Liberty and Friends, the Big Daddy Liberty Show, there on our website. Of course, if you scroll to the bottom of that website, you can also find out how you can support the show. Become one of the number of growing subscribers who are contributing 100 Rand a month towards the show in order to help us hire the editors and the journals that we'll need in order to build an alternative media brand. Now, with that being said, enough of the jibber jabber, let's get straight into the news. All right, we begin this episode of Vuka Nazo in the Free State, in Vrede to be specific, after an alleged kingpin of a fuel stealing or a fuel siphoning criminal syndicate has been arrested by a multidisciplinary team composing, of course, of the Hawks, private security, the Gauteng Traffic Department, various law enforcement agencies that got together in order to begin to close the net on this criminal syndicate, who, as I said, have been stealing or siphoning fuel from Transnet pipelines that dot the country. Now, you'll remember Transnet is a state-owned enterprise, a state-owned business that runs everything from our rail to other areas of logistics and, of course, the moving of fuel across the country. Well, that SOE, which again, for those of you who are fans of Vuka Nazo, will know that this is not the first time that it has had a criminal syndicate, if you will, sometimes even its own officials who collude with these criminals in order to steal from the state-owned enterprise. You'll remember, if I take you back to, was it Vuka Nazo 9, episode 9, Vuka Nazo episode 8, where we spoke about that chrome, the precious metal chrome that was being stolen from Transnet in Mpumalanga, even at times police vehicles being used to steal that. And it's not just Transnet, dear South African. As I've said before, and again, if you're a fan of the show, you'll know that there is a broader issue here. I've been raising the specter that state-owned enterprises, because of often the monopoly they hold on a given area of business that they've made their responsibility, because of their poor governance, their poor systems, and indeed even poor moral fiber of some of the individuals who work in these companies, they've quite readily identified that SOEs or state-owned enterprises are super easy to steal from and to make a quick buck, often making these individuals millionaires in the process. Don't believe me? Just go back in the record of Vuka Nazo episodes, whether it's Vuka Nazo 9, where we spoke about the 3000 PRASA, that's the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, Metro Rail and the like, where that organization had 3,000 ghost employees stealing every month as salaries are paid into these 3,000 people, which begs the question, who was receiving that money? Or even Vuka Nazo episode 15, where we spoke about the 65 truckloads worth of coal that were being stolen regularly from Eskom, often through the trucks that were carrying that coal being hijacked, having the coal offloaded and then replaced with other lower qualities of coal that are mixed with rubble. So if you're wondering, as you said in load shedding now, as to what some of the reasons are for the breakdown of these coal power plants and units, it's exactly this. So let me come back to the story, of course. As I said, this kingpin, a 35-year-old man, being arrested in rather dramatic fashion. Have a look at this.
On the facility. No, it's fine. You've already explained your right, Alafana. Okay. Is that we need to fix it? Sharp. I don't know what I'm going to do with the two. I know you must let you play. You can't beat me. I'm thinking good thing. So which way can we go?
Yes, that's right. As I said, a beautiful sight, albeit a very rare one, of law enforcement winning in this particular instance. But again, this particular story also involves two other individuals who had been arrested prior to the kingpin. I want to read this piece in News 24, which picks up the story as saying that the Hawks spokesperson, a Lieutenant Colonel Philani Nkwalase, said that the pair, Mario Langa, who's 41, and Soli Koza, 35, had already appeared in the Frieda Magistrates Court on Tuesday and were expected to appear again back next week, Monday. Now, they were arrested by this multidisciplinary team comprising of the Hawks and the South African Revenue Service, SARS. Don't we all know SARS? It continues to read, police seized the tanker with fuel which was involved in the Saturday incident. Nkwalase, that's the spokesperson, having said that almost 8.5 million litres of fuel, which is valued at approximately 102 million rand, had been stolen from National Transnet pipes in the last year. He's quoted as saying there are 46 suspects arrested in the last 3 months owing to this multidisciplinary approach in operations, which prove to be a working formula. Now, with the additional 3 linked to this incident, we're sitting with a total of 49 suspects arrested in this country. End of quote. So again, one has to reiterate the kudos and indeed the slow clap of well done to law enforcement, especially the Hawks, who have been rather active lately. There's quite a few organizations of law enforcement which I want to tip my hat to, and I don't mean an ass hat like a certain police minister. But I've always said this, police on the ground, if they were not hindered by the stupid, asinine, and often, incompetent management structures that they have, if they weren't hindered by that or hindered by the poor governance and poor political leadership of a certain asshat of a police minister, well, they would actually achieve much more. These individuals care about going after the criminals in this country. And this story, for me, is symptomatic of exactly that. Because again, it's, for me, look at who these criminals are. How brazen and how comfortable they've even gotten in our society, enjoying the trappings of their ill-gotten wealth openly and publicly. Have a look at some of these pictures of the said home of this alleged kingpin, living in the lap of luxury, indeed quite openly so. A big compound with a big house, flashing almost this wealth, ill-gotten, at least illicitly gotten, to the rest of us, ordinary faith, flag, family, freedom type South Africans who work hard and do not make these mega bucks that come hand over fist. This is the real chasm, or the real divide in our society. It's between us, the law-abiding, ordinary citizens, the sane, sober, moral, prudent, law-abiding citizen, versus the criminal elite. A criminal elite who far too often are friends and schmooze with the political elites in this country and politicians indeed. So that actually, when we have these few cases of SAPs and Hawks and other law enforcement winning against these criminals, we should applaud them. All right, I take you to Parliament now, where the Special Investigative Unit's head, Andy Mothibi, that guy who's doing absolutely God's work in this country insofar as investigating a lot of these cases of theft, corruption, maladministration, some of the worst, especially as it involves state-owned enterprises, which happens to be a bit of a theme in today's Vuka Nazo. Well, he was talking about how the theft at Eskom, especially around the coal syndicates, is at such a widespread and expansive level and so brazen insofar as the syndicates now that have developed around mature syndicates, if you will, sophisticated syndicates rather, that it almost borders on sedition. Those are the words that Andy Mothibi used in describing these syndicates. We've just spoken, for example, about how we here at Vuka Nazo have covered in the past such syndicates. Remember Vuka Nazo episode 15, I'll put this thumbnail over here for a second, where we spoke about this particular syndicate, which was stealing as much as, at a time, as much as 65 truckloads worth of coal and replacing it with lower quality coal and mixed with rubble, destroying the infrastructure of Eskom. That's the kind of stuff that the CEO of Eskom, Andre de Ruyter, who's coming under a lot of pressure from, ironically, some of the very criminal elites who are stealing from Eskom, but that's the kind of pressure and indeed the mess that de Ruyter is dealing with when it comes to trying to clean up Eskom. But in any event, Andy Mothibi, the head of the Special Investigative Unit, unit, saying this borders on sedition, he says, and this piece in EWN, I just want to quickly read to you where he basically unpacks the length to which, guess what, officials within Eskom who are involved will go to in order to steal and line their own pockets. It reads, now Mothibi explained to Parliament the lengths, again, as I said, that officials go to cheat the company, from mixing good quality coal with bad. Mothibi said officials deliberately entered into contracts despite warnings about the poor quality of the coal. Mothibi said that the SIU's investigations had uncovered organized crime at the power utility. In some instances, he's quoted as saying, Eskom officials approach complete strangers. This is part of the modus operandi, where they'll set up subcontractors and bank accounts through which to channel these funds. So this is a deliberate scheme by officials, to fleece Eskom. End of quote. As I mentioned, Mothibi is painting a very dire picture here, where if you are someone who is trying to clean up Eskom, perhaps the question would be, who do you trust within the organizations? As he also cites that it's senior officials who are involved in some of the corruption. But we've spoken about this before and I'll reiterate it here. For me, it's not about what happens within Eskom that matters, because the retaining or keeping of Eskom as the sole provider of electricity in this country is exactly the problem. It is exactly what is opening up these these opportunities for the criminally minded to exploit Eskom in order to make a quick buck, but also to destroy, in the process, destroying the economy and our electricity infrastructure. What you need here is to remove the influence of Eskom as a state-owned enterprise, one which is a monopoly, and actually open up electricity provision in this country to the private sector. Open it up to the market. Have various companies, individuals, organizations, whatever, someone who's has an entrepreneur mind to basically provide the electricity as the private sector and feed it into the grid. Eskom as a SOE could maybe maintain ownership of the grid itself, but insofar as provision, get that out of the hands of the state and politicians and put it into the hands of the private sector. So that inevitably two things happen. Number one, you no longer have a monopoly, which is a single point of failure. So that if anything happens at Eskom, the whole country is stuffed. You'd immediately eliminate that risk. And secondly, prices will go down because you'll compete, you'll have competition. If Company X can provide cheaper electricity because they use coal versus Company B, which is using solar panels or wind, which is erratic, then Company A would win, or Company X rather, would win because it provides the electricity more efficiently, more readily, and indeed more cheaply. These are the advantages of privatizing electricity provision. Dismantle the Eskom monopoly. All right, as we have now come to have a custom here on Vuka Nazo on every Friday episode of the show, we usually have a momish of the week. This week, I decided, no, let me go the other direction. Instead of finding a loser or momish of the week, how about we have a champ on the week, an individual, organization, company, or society, if you will, who have done something really great and should be commended this week. So, the champ of the week is Food Lovers Market. They've done fantastic work, and as a South African company, we should be applauding them insofar as in this economy, they've still opted to bank on you, South Africans, to back you, dear South African, by investing 100 million rand into the development of a new massive 3,000 square meter standalone store in Cape Town. That's right. That store, of course, will be providing jobs and, of course, more importantly, the beauty of capitalism and markets, they're providing a wide variety of fresh produce and indeed other products that you, the consumer, want. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the beauty of capitalism and markets, and why I do not bank on politicians in the state who are useless and can barely provide anything, to be honest. I would rather lean on you, the entrepreneur, our business sector, if you will, in this country, who even in tough times are still banking on you and backing you. So our champ of the week is Food Lovers Market. And even as I'm talking, I'm sure you're checking out those wonderful images of this new store, this new flagship store in Ekapa. Lucky you, Cape Townians, and we can only wish the Food Lovers Group more success. All right, that's it for this, the Friday edition of Vuka Nazo. Let me know what you think about some of these stories. I always look forward to your feedback. Where can you drop that feedback, you're wondering? Well, on our social medias, of course. All of that information is in the descriptors of this video, whether it's up there on Facebook or down there on YouTube. You can find us, of course, on all your major social media platforms. And yeah, keep watching the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, on particular, do me a big favor, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to that big 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So please do me a favor, subscribe, hit that bell notification so that every weekday from 7 a.m. you're notified when Vuka Nazo is on your screens. And of course, you'll find us on our website at www.bigdaddyliberty.com. Now, with us helping you start your news day, make sure you also check out our friends at the Daily Friend. That's dailyfriend.co.za, who from Monday to Thursday at 1:30 p.m. they'll help you round up your news day. Now, with that being said, happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Shabbat shalom to those who are observant, and I'll see you on Monday.